All right, so now we're going to get into how do we write an equation given 2 points. And so that's all we're going to cover in this video. Again, the reason they're short and only one topic is just so that you can go back to whatever video if you're finding yourself struggling in the homework. But it comes down to the same thing over and over again. We want to put it into y equals mx plus b. So we have to know two things. We have to know m and we have to know b. Those are the two things we're going to have to find out. So to start with 2 points, we can find m. That's an easy thing, right? That was part of what, 5.1, slope of a line. So m is going to equal, and like I said in the first video, I just think of it as y minus y over x minus x. All right. And the reason I think of that is we don't need to worry about little 2's and 1's as long as I pull from the same point first. So just because I want to, I'm going to pull the 1 first. So that's my y, right? This is x and this is y and this is x and this is y. So if I pull that 1 first and I do 1 minus a negative 8, then that's going to go over. I have to pull this 2 next. Doesn't matter which order I put the y's in, and I tend to make the y's whatever order I want them to be to help me mathematically, but my x's have to go. Whatever y I chose first, I have to choose the x that's part of that point. So my 2 has to go first, and then I'm going to subtract 5. If that confused you, call me over. Mrs. Cartwright is happy to help. I'm pretty sure Mr. Hackathorn and Mr. Lewis will help too. So, but we are happy to answer those questions. Again, it doesn't matter which order you pull them as long as you pull from the same point first so that you get your x comma y vertically. Now that I do this math, I've got 1 minus a negative 8, which is 1 plus a positive 8, so I get 9 on top. And then I'm going to have 2 minus 5, which 5 is bigger. So I'm going to have 3, but since 5 is bigger, it's going to be a negative 3. So now I have 9 divided by a negative 3, which is negative 3. And that is our slope. So now I can put in for m is negative 3. And I know that right now. So that's step 1. Find slope. Ta-da, did it. Number 2, and I would follow these steps. If you're not writing these steps, I would write them. We're going to plug a point. So plug a point, doesn't matter which one. And m into y equals mx plus b. All right, so you're like, what does that mean? Pick one of these. I'm going to choose this one. Why? There's no negatives. That's why I'm choosing it. It doesn't have any negatives, so I'm trying to make it easier for myself. So I'm choosing that x is 2 and y is 1. And so now I have that y equals mx plus b, right? That's what we're working with. And now I'm going to plug in. My y is 1. 1 equals negative 3, because that's m, times x, which is 2, plus b. Because that's what I know so far. And then from here, I'm going to simplify and solve. So step 3, solve for b. All right, so 1 equals negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6 plus b. So far I've only simplified. Now this is a one-step equation. We spent a lot of time on this in chapter 2. This is negative 6. I want to zero it out, so I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And by adding 6 to both sides, I get that b is 7. And so now I know that b is 7. And so my last step, step 4, is going to be to rewrite y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to rewrite this equation one last time. So y equals, and then I'm going to put in my -3 for m, but I'm going to put x. Notice that my y's and my x's came back, because now we're writing it for any x and y point, okay? Or for whatever x I plug in to know my y. So y equals -3x plus 7. And that is my final answer. And that's how I write my equation. So there are 4 steps. I use my 2 points to find my slope. I take my slope and 1 point, and I plug in to my y, m, and x. Step 3, I'm going to use that equation and solve for b. Once I have b, I go to step 4, and I'm going to rewrite that equation in slope-intercept form, and now I have an equation that works for any point. So I chose 2 and 1, 2, 1. We could have chosen 5, -8. Why? Because the 7's a constant. So it doesn't matter what my x and y point is, as long as we know it's on the line, I'm going to end up getting that same 7. And we could check that by just plugging in 5 for x and seeing if I get -8. So if you wanted to check yourself, you could see, does -8 equal -3 times 5 plus 7? So -8 would be a -15 plus 7. They are different signs, so we actually subtract, and we end up with -8 equals -8. And so this is correct. And the reason is that second point, the one that we didn't use to solve for b, I still ended up getting a correct answer. So that's one way to check. Again, we could have used either point, still going to get the same b, still going to get the same answer. I hope that helps. We've got one last video, and in that next video, we're actually going to take slope-intercept form and graph a line. So I will see you there.